The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks.
I found out that Jet Washington committed to Oregon, five-star safety, top 10, 20 player in the class of 2026, from the most trusted source I could possibly have. So this is my brother Mitchell, right here. Mitchell, welcome back on the show.
Great to be here, Spencer.
Yeah, so for those of you on YouTube who are wildly creeped out right now, I am not sorry for this whatsoever, but I got off the plane flying down here to visit him, and I had a text, and he'd sent me a tweet from Dan Lanning. And what was that tweet?
Oh, you know, Spencer, just the beautiful little duck that Dan sends into the world, but he wants us to have a little bit of joy and you to do a little more work.
just a little. He just sends it out there, and then the whole world goes crazy. And this was, of course, rather significant news because this morning, as you will all hear about on tomorrow's show, it was not the piece of recruiting news we were exactly looking for.
Not exactly. Apparently, Texas A&M also has nice weather this time of the year, but Arrington going there, tough to see, but this is a nice steal for the Ducks.
It really is, because you had a lot of big schools in the fold. He's a big name. The momentum is back. Brandon Arrington is now a distant memory, right? Yeah, I mean, I barely even remembered the guy's name. I had to Google it before we came on here to record this little show.
I don't even know how to spell it.
I actually don't. I think there are two R's. I'm pretty sure there are two R's. But I just wanted to bring Mitchell on to ensure all of you that I get my information from the most reliable source imaginable. My brother's sending me Dan Lanning tweets. That's the way the big boys do it, right?
I mean, the internet remains undefeated. That's why I go straight to the source with Dan.
Yes, exactly. So thank you for that. Credit where credit is due. My brother Mitchell, everybody.
That's what I'm here for.
Some of you had asked a while back if he was ever going to return on the show, and there he was. Returning on the show. So we shall bid him farewell for now and thank him for the contribution. And we will get back. Did you see how smooth that was? That was aggressively smooth. Did we practice that? Yes, absolutely. Several times, just to make sure we weren't going to pull any wires out. But getting down to the heart of the matter here, this is big for a couple of reasons. Number one, Jet Washington, and this will make some of you in particular really, really happy. He is a 6'5", 200-pound safety. 6'5" safety. He is one of the top players in the class of 2026. The 24/7's composite rating, which is what I use personally. Everybody's got their own metrics they prefer. I like that one. It's a more holistic look with more people's input on what a player is. It's an imperfect system. Everything is. He's a top 30 player nationally, number 4 safety in the country, number 1 player in the state of Nevada. Also, I don't know that he plans to play basketball at Oregon. I don't think that he is, but he did lead his school to a 5A state championship this past season. So all around, really, really good athlete. But the schools that he goes and beats out here, that Oregon beats out here, I should say, are USC and Alabama. So USC has, of course, made no shortage of noise on the recruiting trail this offseason. I think Oregon fans, very fairly, have been waiting for the Ducks to make that surge, to make that sort of jump. And this feels like step 2, I will say, in that process. Messiah Hampton was step 1, top 10 receiver in the class, committed earlier this week. Now they go out and get Jet Washington, and when you're going up against USC and Alabama, that tells you, number 1, Oregon did a lot of things right. Number 2, incredibly high caliber player. So he's also a Bishop Gorman kid. As Brian will tell you, Bishop Gorman is one of the top high school football schools in the entire country, not just on the West Coast, but they churn out a lot of high-level players, have for many, many years. And this is just a huge pickup for the Ducks. And it has catapulted their 2026 class inside the top 30. And that's not typically where I've been discussing Oregon recruiting at this time of the year. But with where it was not that long ago, where it was outside the top 40 before Hampton and Washington committed, Oregon's well positioned to get to where I always expect them to be, which is a top 10 class. Because the next big piece of news is Rider Lions committing on June 24th. So 5 days from the time that this bonus episode of the show is dropping. So early next week, Rider Lions will commit. And if Oregon stacks a pair of 5-star recruits within just like a 1 week span, that'll be a testament to how quickly things can change on the recruiting front. And, you know, I've been saying for weeks here on the show that I expect June to be a good month. This is a major, major step. We could very well look back at the month of June and realize that Jet Washington was the highest profile recruit that Oregon landed, especially in the shorter term, because Rider Lions, of course, is really a 2027 guy. Of course, I still want Oregon to get him, add another name to the quarterback room, and I talked about him on tomorrow's episode of Locked On College Football because I'm actually from the future. And his recruitment is probably down to Oregon and BYU. I know Duck fans are familiar with being in that specific setting because it feels like they've been there a lot. You know, even the ESPN article that had been written about this recruitment, because Jet Washington's the nephew of the late Kobe Bryant, they noted that Oregon had missed some high-profile recruits for Brandon Arrington, of course, earlier in the day, and Jackson Cantwell and Jared Curtis. And so to go out there and land Washington from a recruiting standpoint, a really, really strong move by Dan Lanning on the recruiting chessboard there. And the other thing to think about with Jet Washington committing to the Ducks, he's kind of the flagship defensive recruit at the moment. Doesn't mean there aren't other good players in the class. Of course, I've had Tristan Phillips here on the show, who was once again just stirring the pot on Twitter with Washington fans, because why the heck not? Xavier Lurie shut down his recruitment. Viliami Moala and Dutch Horace, along with Tony Cumberland. I can see any of them turning into starting players for the Ducks one day. But Washington is somebody that will have a chance to start as a true freshman. It won't be easy necessarily. Probably depends on what happens with Dylan Thieneman. But his ability to play right away, I think, is as high as Oregon has had for any defensive back recruit in the last couple of years. But you know, when you think about any particular recruiting class, like I'll just pick one that I've covered here on the show at random. Let's go 2024. You look at the top of that defensive back class, or that defensive recruiting class, and it's Elijah Rushing, Aiden Breland, and Ife Obadegwu. Rushing will have a role, I think, on the defense this year. Breland could work himself into being a starter. Ife Obadegwu is probably a starter. But every cycle you have those guys. You know, it was Mateo in the class of 2023. Or in 2025, you'd say on the defensive side of the ball, once the recruits all low, it was definitely Naeem Offord, who is, of course, the highest rated defensive back recruit in the history of Oregon football. So you always have those sorts of guys. Jet Washington can be that sort of guy.
The NBA playoffs are almost over. In fact, they could end this very evening. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action while you still have a chance. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals and assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can place that first $5 bet on some NFL playoff dark horses. The Carolina Panthers sit at plus 240 to reach the postseason. The Bears plus 190, and the new-look Raiders plus 320. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Glenville pipeline is still open as four-star linebacker Sincere Johnson is the latest player to commit to Ohio State. The Glenville High School product right there in Cleveland, Ohio. He is staying home, and Alabama and Penn State are trying to do everything they can to pull this young man out of the great state of Ohio, but their attempts were unsuccessful. This is a recruitment that we have been watching very, very closely, and it was one that we all assumed would land where it landed, where the Buckeyes were the ones to win the prize linebacker, and he's a very versatile player. But aside from his versatility, one thing that he adds to the 26 class is a tackling machine all over the field. Doesn't matter if he's coming off the edge or if he's an off-ball linebacker. This young man, when he gets to you, you're going down every single time. And for James Laurinaitis, this is the kind of guy you want to get. Oh, for Arvell Reese, who was peer recruiting a young man that came from his own high school, that's another boost for the Buckeyes, knowing that Arvell Reese will not be there the entire time Sincere Johnson is at Ohio State, assuming he signs with the Buckeyes on National Signing Day. So you got Arvell Reese, versatile, is going to be playing off the edge this year as well as being an off-ball linebacker. You got another kid coming in right after him who is going to have a lot of the same traits. It makes so much sense. But for James Laurinaitis, I think you could take the linebacker room to another level and kind of turn back the clock or continue what's already been going on while raising the bar for linebacker play at Ohio State. Because if you go back a little bit from Tommy Eichenberg and his monster year to Cody Simon last year, I think Sonny Styles can keep the bar high. I think Arvell Reese and Sincere Johnson at their best. So this is a massive projection, but I think at their best, they can be the type of versatile linebackers and the type of elite linebackers Ohio State is used to. Sincere Johnson, to me, while it was a no-brainer, I mean, it feels good when it happens. It doesn't matter if it's one of those things where you are thinking it's definitely going to, or you have some hesitation. It all feels good when everything goes the way that it should. And for the 2026 class, you now have two linebackers in this group, Sincere Johnson and CJ Santa. Both of them are from the great state of Ohio. Santa's from Olentangy High School, not far from the shoe. You got two guys that are right there in the state that can fill the role of linebacker. But I think Johnson, more than Santa, has the opportunity to get on the field early and to be a multi-year starter at Ohio State. And I'm not just tossing these things out there to fill space on the show. I'm not that kind of guy. I firmly believe that with James Laurinaitis' ability to not only recruit, but to develop talent, he is on a path to be the next Brian Hartline type assistant coach at Ohio State. Lachlan is too. So I'm not saying Laurinaitis is not there without any competition. I think Lachlan is a guy that could be that running back coach that is looked at in the same way that Hartline is. Elite assistant coach, great developer of talent, great recruiter, and is probably going to be at his school for 5+ years. Now, I don't know if Lachlan's going to be there for 5+ years. It'd be nice if he was. I think James Laurinaitis has no plans of going anywhere. He has young kids that are loving where they are. He's been in Ohio for a very long time. I think after he retired from the NFL, I think he came back to Columbus and was there doing a radio show and doing stuff for the Big Ten Network, and it just made sense. Hey, go to South Bend for a little bit, then now he's back home, and everything's working out. I am so glad and happy that things are working out for Ohio State the way that they are. Ryan Day's desire to be picky and to take a very slow approach with recruiting in this cycle, it could be a little confusing. I'm not going to lie to you, because there are times where I'm thinking USC has X amount of players and other schools have X amount of players. Shouldn't I be concerned about Ohio State's slower approach to recruiting? No, you shouldn't be, because Ryan Day knows what he's doing. Ryan Day has earned the right to do the things he wants to do with recruiting and with the portal because his method works. He is trying to keep the standard high, be very, very picky, and not just hand out offers and official visits like Oprah did on her TV show. No, Ryan Day is trying to let everyone know Ohio State's not for everybody. And if you think it's for you, but you don't get an offer, or you get an offer and you don't get an official visit, there's a reason why. I know Ryan Day's approach is a little bit different, but it's working. And I expect over the next few weeks, maybe 4 or 5 more verbal commitments, you get 20 to 21 plus guys in this class at that point in time. And that'll make you feel a whole lot better going into the 2025 season, where there will be, I believe, at least one official visit during the season opener against Texas. Maybe there are more down the road. I am not sure. But Ryan Day's approach, while it is different, while he didn't even have official visits during the weekends that he could in May, He cut off a couple of them and said, no, we're going to start a little bit later. It's Ryan Day's approach. It's different. It's unique. And it fits the culture that Ryan Day wants at Ohio State. Just like Sincere Johnson fits the culture the Buckeyes want at Ohio State. I am not the kind of guy when I watch film that easily says, oh, man, I'm all in on you. Oh, you got the goods, man. You one of them ones. I mean, I'm not the kind of analyst that's going to come out here and just say that. No, I'm not. But Sincere Johnson's one of them ones. Trust me. Just like when people saw Paris Johnson Jr., or just like when people saw Ezekiel Elliott back in the day, or just like when people saw CJ Stroud or Tavian St. Clair, those kind of guys, when you look at them in high school and say, oh, okay, yeah. He's going to be a dude. He's going to be one of them ones when he gets to Ohio State that's going to be a multi-year starter, going to be a phenomenal player, going to have 100-plus tackles in at least one season, maybe two. I mean, he's one of them guys. That's Sincere Johnson. And moving forward, I think for the D-line recruiting specifically, you might get a boost in that area because they see a guy behind them that has no fear, that has no worries, that knows his instincts are always on point, that knows his leverage and his speed to the ball and his pursuit of the ball carrier is always on point, that knows how to lead from the linebacker position. And they're going to say, well, if they got that guy to not go to Bama, to not go to Happy Valley, but to stay in Columbus, I might need to do the same thing. So peer recruiting is crazy. Sometimes it's like a Brady Edmonds peer recruiting via quote tweets on X or doing some things away from social media to recruit players. But also peer recruiting is something that sometimes you don't even speak to somebody. You just make a commitment about where you're going to play football. Somebody else sees that. It's on the Buckeyes' radar, and they say, oh, that's where I want to go.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Luke Wafel. Here we go. As they say, nothing in life comes easy. Never has, never will. Not, especially when it's something you want. Luke was supposed to commit at the beginning of the week, right? And then Ohio State said, hey, slow down. Let us make an offer. I came on Locked On USC earlier this week, and I said, by the time Thursday's episode rolls around, depending on what time of the day you listen or watch, hopefully both, hopefully it's the first thing in the morning, but anyways, I said there was going to be a good chance that USC's class would have another edition. Thursday was supposed to be the day that Luke Wafel commits to USC. I'm recording this episode Thursday night, last day of Elite 11 finals. You're watching this episode Friday. So I had all the, I kind of laid out the timeline, everything was going to work. So here I am, after Elite 11 first day, I'm making these proclamations here on Locked On USC. And then literally, I use the other F word when it comes to recruiting Wednesday morning. I woke up, I was like, what? When I left Elite 11 Tuesday night, around 8:15-ish, 8:30, the last conversation I had with sources in the know said, hey, done deal. It's going to happen on Thursday. It did. Luke Wafel committed to USC on Thursday. However, like I said, when Wednesday morning rolled in, the Buckeyes, they had changed Luke's mind. They gave him a great offer. They flipped him. Steve Wiltfong had changed his prediction. He bombed. Yep, he's going to Ohio State. And then all of a sudden, Penn State said, hey, wait, hold my beer. Let us get a last shot in here. In case you don't know, Luke Wafel's older brother transferred from Michigan to Penn State. So there was a chance to be a family affair going on there. I have to assume that USC said, hey, look, just give us last chance. If you're going to, take an offer from Ohio State, take an offer from Penn State, at least give us the courtesy. Let us know what it is. Well, while I'm watching Jonas Williams perform like an all-star on the final day of Elite 11, Luke Wafel commits to USC. It's done. So here we are, end of the week, and the Trojans' number one recruiting class just keeps getting stronger. I mean, think about this. Last week, USC on Father's Day got the commitment from their biggest linebacker commit in a long time, Talanoa Ely. And then you follow it up, less than a week later, end of the week, still, you get, a commitment from elite 4-star defensive end edge player from New Jersey, the school of the Hun, or the Hun school, Luke Wafel. This is what Luke's dad, David, said. He shared his thoughts on what they experienced and learned about USC these past couple months. Luke was in LA for spring camp. I believe he was at the Coliseum for the Trojan Olympics. And then last weekend, he was at USC for his official visit. So this is from his dad, David. Quote, USC was a very special experience. Coach Eric Henderson, and Coach Sean Newer were great. Coach Dan Lynn, we had some really great meetings with those guys. To actually sit down and have a one-on-one with Coach Lincoln Riley was special. We spent a good amount of time talking to him about the program. There's a lot of energy around USC. We feel there is a lot of momentum to go to practice inside the Coliseum, and their football alumni there were like 150 alumni, and you could feel it. Things are happening at USC for sure, end quote. That's the dad. That's not Luke, okay? So if dad is feeling it, imagine what the recruits are feeling. Guys like Luke Wafel. I know a lot of people are out there thinking, oh, you know what, USC, you're buying your class. This isn't just about how many recruits USC has in their class right now. USC's number one class isn't only about quantity. It's about quality. And yeah, USC's stepping up to the plate with their NIL. But look at the quality of players they're getting. They have the number one class, 30 commitments. But again, not just about the numbers. It's about the guys they're bringing in. Think about this. USC's defensive line class alone. Talking about Luke Wafel, Samote Katuana, Tom Tapui, Braden Jones, Jamion Winfield, Malik Brooks, Jake Johnson, Andrew Williams. That means that 5 of the Trojans' 8 commitments in the defensive line room are ranked in the top 200 overall. Let that sink in. Luke Wafel is considered the number 52 player overall. Samote, the number 65 player overall. Jamion Winfield, number 95. Tom at number 138, we know is way underrated. And you got Braden Jones at 169. So USC they are doing what they need to do. They're recruiting like everyone anticipates, but what USC is also doing is they're showing everyone that they're not going to back down. Even if Ohio State says, hey, no, that's our backyard, we're taking that, or Penn State. Well, USC so far, they've gotten Albert Hill from Ohio. They've gotten Sean Alston from Ohio. They just snagged Luke Wafel out of New Jersey from Penn State and Ohio State. USC recruiting right now, some of you are going to be old enough to understand this reference. Remember the TV show Different Strokes with Arnold Willis? What you talking about, Willis? USC is back to being the Gooch. Arnold Jackson's bully. Remember the bully, the one you never saw? Not only is USC bullying, acting like the gooch to schools like Oregon and Penn State and others, Ohio State, they're recruiting a bunch of guys, a bunch of bullies, a bunch of gooches. Get your mind out of the gutter, folks. They put Ohio State back in their chairs. Sit down. Penn State, they're close. They have, like I said, they have his brother. State of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they touch each other. USC said, oh, you know what? Okay, we're going to take them. We want them more than you. It didn't matter in the end. It just did not matter. Just doesn't matter. USC stepped up. They made Wafel and his family a fair market value offer. Use finger quotes there for those of you listening and not watching. So again, they made him a fair market offer to play in LA as one of the best defensive ends in the country. Go watch his highlight film. It's off the charts. Scary. It's good and it's scary. And then go back and watch Brian Cushing's old film at USC. Cushing was a big-time bully on the football field. Wafel is a scary dude on the field as well. He plays with that same tenacity, intensity. He's a headhunter. He's going to come get you. He's going to throw you to the ground. Some say he's the next Joey Bosa. He's got that type of potential. So here's USC's number one recruiting class in 2026. 30 committed players. Peyton Dyer, Mark Bowman, Sean Scott, Luke Weaver, Kenai Pepe, Elbert Hill, Roderick Tazeno, Cannon Smith, Vlad Diakonov, Deshaun Rideau, Jake Johnson, Tom Tapui, Malik Brooks, Chase Dinas, Jamie Winfield, John Fafita, Isun Tafa, Trent Mosley, Samote Katuana, Jonas Williams, we're going to talk about him in the next segment, Brandon Lockhart, Braden Jones, Madden Reardon, Joshua Holland, Sean Alston, Andrew Williams, and Jermiron Tron Baker. That's the class of 30. This could be one of those all-time defensive line classes. All right, just to kind of put everything in context, break them out of that larger group. You've got Mote and Wafel at defensive end. Plus you got Williams, who was underrated. Right? Samote is a number one defensive end in California. Luke Wafel is considered one of the top defensive ends in the country from the East Coast. USC's defensive line, interior, just as good. Tom, Jamie Winfield, Braden Jones, Malik Brooks, Jake Johnson, taking his official visit this weekend. Okay, look, even though none of these guys are going to be playing for USC in 2025, Wafel and Katuana, they're joining Jakeem Stewart, Gus Cordova, and Jaden Ramos, who are part of this year's USC squad. USC also brought in Floyd Bucard and Cash Jacobson for the interior in 2025. USC's stacking right now. And it's making everybody else in the country upset and scared. It really feels like USC is back to recruiting the way everyone anticipates USC should recruit annually.